And welcome everyone to this week in Svelte. As usual, I am Paulo. I will be your host for today, and let's jump right in because we have today. It's a fun episode in my opinion. We will not have a community showcase, but we will probably have one next week. So it's exciting. I'm always excited when community showcase is happening. But today I have a great return. Like I have a lot of quick facts, which I would love to share with you, and some question and answer, which will probably end up also in live coding. So stick with us. So let's jump right in, and we can go over the usual changelog. So we can start with Svelte 5. There are some changes for the migrate function, which was not migrating derivation with semicolon, a very weird bug. New, like better error warning messages when you are trying to bind to Svelte window and Svelte document when there are like not valid in bindings, which is super cool. This is also very, very funny. Like basically Svelte, it's using clone node, if I understand correctly, under the hood. And there's a bug in Chrome, but Dominic found a workaround to that. So it still works today. Hopefully they will fix it in Chrome and it will be better. Also, like warning code, if you want to ignore warning, you don't have to require, like it doesn't require in Svelte 4 you could just do Svelte ignore and then every warning like this to ignore warnings. And for a moment there was like you needed to specify a comma between them, and now instead you can actually just go back to put them all in one line and all with space separated. So it's fun. We have other interesting thing. Speed up hydration. So they are currently working on hydration to make hydration better, more performant, less like with doing less stuff, which is always interesting because hydration is what is actually spinning up your application in the beginning. So the faster it is, the better, because the user will be able to interact with your application sooner. So very interesting. Super weird bugs. I love that. Like there's always those super edge cases. So it was not possible to add a comment after the last selector in CSS, and now it's possible. There's also scoping, like when you nest selector, Svelte was adding the Svelte class, and now it's not anymore. This was also a fun bug where, like, if you updated the value and you had another variable, it was like eliminating the value of the inputs. Better handling of unknown derived signal. This again, like if you don't know the concept of an unknown derived signal, basically a signal needs to be, like, especially a derivation, a derived, needs to be inside a parent effect, basically. And if you just put a derived out there, it needs to behave a little different. but they are like constantly improving this, so that it's closer and closer, similar and similar. um, this is very, very interesting because it's a breaking change, but also because of the effect that we'll have on our application. This was basically done to allow, whenever there is an event handler or a binding, etc., it yield back effect updates. So it will run inside an effect, the update, but it will be like before actually updating the value of like before running the event handler or before um, changing a binding, it will yield back to the main thread. And this means that this is very important for the new web core vital thing, like the interaction to the next paint. Because if you yield back to the browser will have the opportunity to repaint. And before, basically the effect will run basically synchronous, and the event handlers will run basically synchronous. And this means that like if you click a button and you are doing a bunch of work inside your event handler, the browser cannot repaint until your handler finish. While with this, it can actually do it. So it's very good, very cool. Um, yeah, there are some. I actually worked on this PR, and I found out like this is a very little thing. Like, did you know that this is valid Svelte? So in Svelte 4, you can actually do this. So let's do svelte.dev/REPL. This is actually like it's valid HTML, but it's also valid Svelte, obviously, because Svelte it's kind of a superset of HTML. So if you have a variable, in this case, like its name, let's say that I want to have a title here for the H1, I can actually specify the title without specifying commas. So the thing that I think most people here will do is something like title name, right? So if you do this and you hover over this, you should be able to see title word. It's very small, but here you can see like title word. But I didn't know this, and this is actually valid Svelte, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Oh, and actually, this is yeah, okay. Rather than this is actually valid Svelte, and you may think that this name is actually a name variable that is like it was before, but in reality, like given that this is attached to title, is perceived as a string. So if you say here, like you will say title word. So what this gets rendered to is actually an H1 title with title word, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. And this is also true for the opposite. So if you do something like this, name, and you add title after it, it should also do the same. I don't know actually if this is doing the same. I think it is. Yeah, word title. So yep, it's kind of fun. Let's go over. Don't warn on link without href if ARIA is disabled. This is an accessibility thing. Don't use console trace inside dev warnings, and that's it. That's actually not very much. Not much like releases this week. Let's see what. Oh, we have actually some SvelteKit release, and this is also something that is helping with interaction to the next paint because it's yielding back to the main thread before navigating for the same reason. So when you click on a link before actually executing the code to swap to change the page, it will yield back for a moment to the main thread so that the main like the next paint can happen, and then then go ahead and do the changes. There is also fix to exclude server file from optimized depth entries, bump import meta resolve for to remove deprecation warning. Good. Don't have any. And let's see other. We have some new release for adapter auto, which is always the same. Creates Svelte. Oh wow, I missed this. Now TypeScript is the default for apps, which is good. I don't know if you are a fan of TypeScript or not, but I mean it's undoubtedly like winning in the JavaScript ecosystem. So I think it's fair that TypeScript is the default for apps. And there's also the bump import meta resolve stuff that will that will work. Let's see if there's some comment. It happens after state update, but before affect the DOM. Yeah, that's Stalky specifying about the yield back to the main thread. Without quote is legal. Yes, it's actually like valid HTML. You can actually write HTML like this. Yeah, exactly. This is what it is like that PR was enabling. Handler, render, DOM updates. I think Tailwind works fine with Svelte 5. I don't think there's any problem. Tailwind is a CSS library that you're just importing in the root layout and using, so it should work fine. Yeah, when there's space is passing name as a name prop. And Dalucario is saying, I don't like TypeScript because when you have an untyped libraries or other tools which create massive object, it's a genuine pain to create those types. And he's asking if there is a way to create TypeScript type from a JSON object. There are generators for that, so you can do something like this. If you search JSON to TypeScript, for example, there are websites like these where you can pass JSON like this and get back an interface. And I think that you can also use setting, like you can create a monotype or not. You can probably convert it to type 2 if you like more type, and all of these are all generators, so you can change between JSON and convert it to a ZOD schema, for example, to MySQL for some reason, to a JSON schema, which is also interesting. So yeah, there are generators for this, but yeah. And regarding libraries that does not have types, you can always check. There is this wonderful project which is called Definitely Typed. So if you go to npm.js and you search for a package that does not have types, I think Express does not have types. You can see that if you search Express, exactly. Now let's compare it with something that instead has types. So if you go to npmjs.com, and I know, let's say we have a package that is for in TypeScript. I think svelte.js/kit, it's actually TypeScript ready. So if we search these, you can actually see that there is this TypeScript here. And what the title says, this package contains built-in TypeScript declaration. Express, on the other hand, is just a JavaScript library. And you see that there is this DT. And this DT means that you can use definitely typed to actually make it work. This is a kind of a general, like it's general knowledge, but basically like if a library does not ship with TypeScript files, TypeScript declarations, you generally can find the same library in @types/name of the library. And TypeScript will actually suggest to you this. And if you go here, basically, this is the package at types/express, and this contains the declaration file for express. And this definitely typed is like a huge repo where there are a bunch of people that are just there writing TypeScript file. So always take a look at that, and you can see, like, if you go to types, these are all the libraries that have types written by the Definitely Type project. So definitely try to do this. There are types for literally everything. Like there is Node, ban, and stuff like that. So don't give up on TypeScript for that. Yeah, exactly. If the library is popular enough, people already probably have created types for that. Yeah, TypeScript make node models bigger, but is that a problem? I know, maybe if you don't have space on your computer, but like obviously it will be bigger because you have the type declaration. But I think it's a good trade-off, because you are trading your time trying to learn a library, for example, for a bit of space in your computer. It's an okay trade-off in my opinion. So we did the changelog. So let's move to some quick fact, which was missing from sometimes. So the first quick fact that I want to tell you is this. There is this website which is very cool. It's called initcommit.info, and you can search for libraries and see what was the initial commit for that libraries. So obviously, as the fanboy that I am, I searched for the initial commit for Svelte, which was made by a certain Rich Harris. I don't know him, but on November 16, 2016. So, yep, we should remember this as the like Svelte party. We should throw a party. And we can also take a look at the commit, which is super cool because it started the compiler basically, and it started with this test that try to parse this span string and get back this AST. Very cool. And this is the parser. So if you want to take a look at a very rudimental parser that can like get a thing, you can take a look at this package. And name Svelte version 1.0. We already had 1.0 in the beginning. So yeah, that's a small quick fact which I love. Let's move to another quick fact, which is this website, like this video that I want to share with you. And it's actually a playlist. It's called Svelte 5 Room Demystified, and I will actually post these in the comments, like in the chat here, because I think this is very, very interesting. Like, this video is from I would love to see the name again. Peter Makes Website Ltd. And he is a very chill guy, and what he's doing here is basically recreating a signal-based reactivity system to explain the difference between like how Svelte 4 behaved and how Svelte 5 behaved. It's a visual thing. It will show the code, so it's very good in my opinion, and it's a good thing to have a general like idea of how a signal-based reactivity work, which I think is good. So that's another quick fact. And now we can move to another, like first thing first, there is another quick fact that I want to actually live code, because I think we kind of showed this some times ago, but now I think it's I found a better solution and I want to share it with you. So let's start with this. Let's say that I have let's say that I have an action. So export const actions SQL async default, and the only thing that I want to do here actually is just like log that we are here. Okay, log here, like in action, right? So I have this action. And inside my plus page.svelte, I will have a form that will connect to this action. So let's do a form method is equal post, and action, I mean, is the default one, so it's fine. I want to import, obviously, $up/forms, because I want enhance from it, because I want to enhance this form. Let me have an input name, I don't know, query. Yeah, I think that's good. And let's actually do something. So I want to have export let form, because I want to have this value. The value of this input needs to be form.query, for example. So actually, I need to do something here, because I want to get the request. I want to get form data is equal to await request dot form data, and I want to get const query is equal form data dot get query. So I'm getting back this, and I say return query, and this is erroring out because I'm using form without a question mark here. So if there is a query, I want to have that as value or an empty string. Let's add a button just for completeness, submit. So very easy, I can search something, and whenever I submit, I get back the same thing. Yeah, very simple. Now, and let me still log the query here. Console log query. So we can see that the server is being it. So very simple. Now let's say that I want to have this form to be auto-submitted every time. First thing first, let's add enhance. So use enhance so that we don't refresh the page every time. Yeah, very cool. Now, let's say that we want to have this form, like when JavaScript is enabled, I want to have this form to be auto-submitted. So the user will type, and every letter that the user will type will be submitted to the form, because maybe this is a search form and stuff like that. The way you can do it is by using these, use enhance. So the first thing that you should do actually, is add an on input on the input. So we can add an input, and the moment we do on input, we can also add const form is equal e.current target dot form, which is the actual form. And we can check if form, just for completeness, and we can do form dot request submit. And by the way, if you don't know, there is the submit button, but request submit is what you should use, because if you don't do this, like this is just basically like if the user clicked submit. So now with use enhance and these, what we get is I click G and I get G. When I click again, I click E and I get again. Now, as you may have noticed, there is something pretty pissing. That is, every time I click something, I lose focus. And that's because Svelte is trying to emulate the browser behavior. In this case, I don't want the browser behavior, because I want the user to be able to type and still work. So let's actually try to do something else. So if we do use enhance like this, we can return a function, and this function, so this outer function will be run before the form is submitted, and this function will be run when the form complete the request, basically. So what you could do basically is you get also a submitter here, which should be the input in this case. We can actually check. So let me do console log submitter, because I can't remember if it's the input in this case. So if I do this, oh, it's actually null. Okay, so we need to get a reference to the input to focus on it. So let's do input, which is HTML input element. Oh, it's actually not JavaScript, not TypeScript. So I can bind to this input. Bind this is equal input. So now I have the input. And now that I have the input, what I can do is inside the return, if the I need to do a couple of things. I need to also use apply action. So apply action. This apply action, what it does is when the result of the form submission come back, and you can get that inside this function. So the result. So if result dot type is equal to success. So when the result is successful, you can apply action on the result, and this will basically update the form value, because I'll show you if you do these, like if you don't do these, sorry, let's not do this, and I submit something, I don't get back, like the form does not have the value. So, and we can show that by doing var dump, var dump of form value. So now it's null. If I submit something, I should be getting back like the value that I returned from the form, but the value is still null. And the reason is because if you return a function from the function that you pass to use enhance, Svelte will not do anything. So you have to do it yourself. And to do that, you can use apply action. So if I now use these and I click D, for example, and I submit, oh, what's happening? Oh, I have a typo. So let's refresh. If I now do these, I get back S. If I then do R, I get back R. So this is what is actually making my form to be like reactive to the result of the form. So in theory, what I could do is I could just do input.focus, right? Now, this is, I don't know if it's a bug of some sort, but there is a problem here. If I do this, I still lose focus. What? Well, this is actually an asynchronous function that is removing also the focus. So maybe I can await. So I can have async, and I can do await here, and I clicked here, and now it's working. I'm still focused, as you can see, but there is a problem. I cannot type. And I think this is also like another possible problem, but there is a solution for this. So that's what I found. Like generally, when I had to do something like this, what I did was something like set timeout, and I had to put something that was not 0. So even with 0 was not working. So if you do 0, it's not working. So I don't know, actually. Oh, it's working with 0. Fuck. Sorry. It's working with 0 this time after the await. But you can see sometimes, especially if you type very fast, the blue halo around, I don't know if you can spot it, loses focus. And this is also especially bad on mobile. I tried this on mobile, and on mobile, whenever you type a letter, you are still focused, but you have the keyboard that goes boop, 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 boop. It's open and close, it's open and close. It's very bad. So There is a better way, and the better way that I found out is this. You can do input.autofocus is equal to true, then you await, and then you do input.autofocus is equal to false, so that you can remove the autofocus. And just by doing this, you actually get the best experience ever, because you can type however you want. On mobile, the like, you never lose focus basically. So yeah, this is interesting. And with these, you can also do something like a bit like more interesting, maybe, because in theory you could do something like, let's say on input, let's say that we have multiple inputs. So this is input B, so query 2, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of cross-browser tested it, not very extensively, but it should work. By the way, what I wanted to show you is that with this technique, you can also do something different, which is, let's say that you have these other input, this other input that you want to focus instead of the same one. So what you can do is, I can remove these because I don't need it. So I want to bind to this other form, yeah, query 2, it's fine. I don't care, like, it's not what I want to show you. And now I can do that. I can say that I only want to submit if form and event dot current target dot value dot length is greater than 10, for example. So by doing this, it will not be submitted, the form, until you have at least 10 character. And after the form is submitted, you shift focus to this other input. So I can remove the bind this on this. So you shift the focus to this other input. So if I can do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and it switch focus. So I mean, it's stupid things, but it's nice that you have this way of yeah, it's a useful trick, as Captain Codeman is telling, and it's also witchcraft. Yeah. So yeah, this was another quick fact with live coding. I think that's all about quick facts. And we now have a question, which will still be live coding. So let's continue. But we will continue on the Svelte 5 preview playground, because the question that was asked on Discord, and by the way, I tell you again, like, please join our Discord, because like there's plenty of people there, and we talk of Svelte and web development in general all the times, and you can get questions like these that then gets featured on This Week in Svelte. So not that is like this super show, but I mean, it's nice. You can get answers from someone else, and you can explain what's going on and stuff like that. So if you go to svelte.dev/chat, you can join our Discord. So the question was, and let me see if I find a banner. I can actually edit this. The question was, how do I show a percentage on a long job? So this is we are doing this in Svelte because we are Svelte developers, but this is kind of general way. So let's mimic a big job, right? So we have big job here with job.js, and this export function big job is a big job. So maybe we need to do, I don't know, function read file, and this function will take time. So it's an async function, and we can let's mimic that we are reading a file, right? So we can do await, new promise, return, and then we set timeout for I don't know. Let's take a thousand milliseconds. So to read a file, it's a very big file. It takes a second, right? Then we can maybe do something else, like I don't know, sort lines, right? And this is an easier task. It takes 500 milliseconds, and then we have write file, for example, and writing file is very slow, and it takes I don't know 2 milliseconds. Now you have this big job, and obviously what you're doing is you are awaiting the read file, you are awaiting sort lines because you need to sort the lines, and then you are awaiting write file, right? So it's a very big and chunky thing. Like it will take 3 seconds and a half to do this big job. Now let's import big job from bigjob.js. We have this big job, and let's run this big job. And click. Oh. Run big job. And there's something wrong here. Import big job. Can I use keyword await outside of an async function? Oh, it's not async. Yeah, okay. We need it to be async. So we have this big job, and what we do is we call big job here, and then maybe I don't know. We can use an async function. So we can do async. We can await big job, and then we show alert done, right? So obviously this is not a very good user experience. If you click, you will get boom. After 3.5 seconds, you will get a done. It's not a good user experience. So what you can do is, let's say that you have a progress bar, right? And you have a value, which is progress. And so you can show the progress. And this is actually, I didn't know this, but progress is actually not a self-closing tag. So you have this progress, and so we want let progress is equal to $state, because we want a 0 progress for the moment, and the value of progress go from 0 to 1. So now what we want to do is we want to show the user some value that is like, okay, we are at this point inside our job. So obviously we can calculate it in this case, but generally like it's not that precise. What you should do is, if you have a situation like this, what you can do is just accept a callback. So if you accept a callback, you can actually say, okay, after I finish reading the file, I will be at, okay, it's 1 over 3.5. So it's, yeah, I mean, let's do actually like this. So you cannot always do something like this, but it's fine. When you finish sorting the lines, you are at this, and when you finish writing the file, you are at 100%, which is 1. So by doing this, and if you provide a callback when you pass big job, what you can do is, first thing first, you don't need to await it anymore, because it's not something that you want to do after. And inside this callback, you get the new value, the new progress, and you just set the progress to be new progress. And now the user experience is much nicer, because if you click, you get boom, boom, boom. So obviously it's not the best thing in the world, but yeah, like you get something, you get a feedback, the user knows at which point of the job there is, and it can play with the progress, especially if you have many step. You can like put the mouse here to see and check if it's actually running or not. But yeah, it's pretty easy, and it's a good thing to show to your users. Let's see if there are other questions. One, is there a matrix for Svelte? And Captain Codeman is actually answering, we are living in it, or did you take the wrong pill? So, no, I don't know. Joking aside, Shab, if you can clarify the question, I will gladly help you. If you are just talking about the matrix, like the matrix uh, structure, like the matrix, like file structure. I don't know. I can't remember data structure. That's the word I was trying. Is actually just JavaScript. So you can do let matrix is equal to array of array, and that's a matrix. I tend to just throw a loading indicator at it, to be honest, or a status bar. This is actually like a good thing, and you can actually do, fun fact about HTML, you can do progress in the terminate, and this will say something like this. Like, so it's a loading state that is not determinate. And I actually think, like, maybe if you don't have a value, we show this. Yeah, if you don't have a value, it will show this. Yeah, to be fair, like, it's very, very difficult. In this case, we know at which point of the percentage we are because we are adding artificial delay. But you can never be sure of how much time it will take to read a file and stuff like that. But it's nice to give the user some information. You could even like send some sentence like, okay, now I am reading the file, now I am sorting lines, and now I am writing the file. So the user has actually, and we can actually do it, for example. So like status, let's say status is nothing, and then we can say status is new progress. And here we can actually say, okay, reading the file, and then sorting lines, and then writing the file, and then done. And so when you run big job, we should probably show the status. And when you run big job, and let's actually do this. I love HR, sorry. I know it's ugly, but I don't know. I am not a designer. So if you click, you can say reading the file, sorting line, writing the file, done. So it's a better indication. It generally depends on the kind of job. You may need to break it up to report progress if it's too monolithic at the moment. Yes, obviously, like if you are running, like if you have a for loop with, I don't know, 5 million iteration, you cannot do anything inside that for loop unless you await, but then the for loop becomes more more slow. So yeah, you might need to break it up, but it's nice if you can do something like that. And Stalky is actually giving you a really good advice, because if you need something like file transfer, you can pipe the file through transform stream, and this way you can observe the progress. And this is also like, it's all like standard library stuff, basically. Like, it's all from the web. Like, you can literally have a transform stream. So you can do new transform stream, and this is a stream. You can pipe if you have a, I think it's a writable that it's, no, maybe it's a readable. Like if you have a readable stream, readable stream, you can pipe, it's equal to readable stream, dot pipe through, you can pipe to a transform stream, a readable stream, so that you can read information and then go through. I don't use Discord much for, I think so. Matrix is some other chat app. I don't know about that. I am confusing render children in layout.svelte when getting data from layout.server.ts. What is the purpose of passing children? Children in Svelte 5, it's actually the replacement for for the slot. So in Svelte 5, if you want to render a child, you need to render child. So render children. I know that it's kind of sound obvious, but so let's say if you do svelte.dev with a template of 5 to have Svelte 5. Inside the layout, in this case, there is a slot, but I actually should update this template, because what you should do is actually go to $sign props and get the children, and then you should render children. And the reason why you want to do this is because if you don't render these, and I'll show you, like let's say that I do these. If you don't render children and you refresh, you see nothing, because this is what is telling SvelteKit where do I render my children. So you can get data from the server, so you can actually do data if you have any data from the server, but you need to render children if you actually want to see something on the page. And the reason is because obviously in this case you are just rendering children, but you can render children in different parts. That's why it's a layout. So you could, for example, have a header here that says my awesome website, and you can have a footer here that says, what am I doing? Okay, footer, my cool footer, and this will be rendered in every. So you can have a main here and render the children here. So this header and footer will be rendered in every page of your application, and here the child, the page, will be actually rendered. Or if you're in a like if you have another layout, because you are in a nested route, you can also render the layout there. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is where the child will be rendered. So that's why you need it. Okay, I got it. Thank you. And I think that's it. I'm always surprised because you stick with me for 50 minutes doing basically nothing. So I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this week in Svelte. I always find it difficult to say, like, this week in Svelte. It's this week squared in Svelte. And I'll see you guys next Friday, hopefully with a community showcase. Thank you, everyone, and see you guys next Friday.